Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Here on Blag. Blag is from the Dwarves, legendary band, iconic in a sense that real music lovers know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
hopefully, this music coming out now, you have coming out, and this maybe resurgence will help propel you to some newer audiences.
yeah.
Welcome.
Success is always just around the corner.
Well, what is success? That's
That's
the
right.
question.
Mass appeal is right around the corner.
Well, if that's success, and God help you. Success for me is just getting through the day. I have the bar. You keep the bar real low, and you're gonna have large amounts of success in your life.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That
absolutely.
that's how you
Yeah,
do it. But
that's
you've
right.
you've done a lot of stuff, like the musically, obviously you do your own stuff. You've done some other stuff with, a lot of other musicians too. I mean, you're really out there.
Try to be, I try to stick with it and not get too stuck on any one thing.
You don't even really dance in one genre. I mean, of course, that the classic punk rock, the 80s rock. I mean, but really you kind of do a lot of everything, even especially when you do other artists. I definitely think you dabble in a lot of
Yeah, the dwarves over the
areas.
last 25 years or so have been very a lot of genre hopping, so you'll pick out any dwarves record from from about Dwarves Must Die right through this our last full-length record was a concept album. And what you get is like there'll be a pop punk song that's fairly predictable and catchy, and then it'll go into something very thrash and hardcore, and then it'll go to some kind of noisy experimental thing, and then it'll go to like garage rock and rockabilly. And so it's very hard to kind of get a handle on the dwarves. It always every 2 minutes or so it shifts again.
I think and of course, I'm sure anybody handles PR for you is like, well, how do I bill you? Or record labels that makes them pull their hair out. I mean, I think, when I started the show out, I was like, 1 week I have had Cannibal Corpse on, next week I have Air Supply on, and it makes people crazy. They're like, who are you? I'm like, I'm a fan of music. And it's kind of like that with you, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, do you like music? Are you open-minded? Come for the
right.
journey.
Yeah.
Come on for the journey. You don't have to like everything, but come along. You'll like it something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easier to market just one thing. So a lot of bands are just kind of that, and a lot of people, yeah, it almost seems like they're stuck on just the one genre, which is fine if you do it really well. But and then most of the people who are like that, it's kind of like they do kind of a cookie cutter version of whatever they're
Yeah.
doing. So it's like if you love Green Day, I get that, but do you really love like Green Day Part 50, some band
Yeah.
that's just, doing that, I mean, it's for the Dwarves, we kind of started as a 60s garage band and then it kind of morphed into a hardcore band. And that was what most people sort of knew us as. But then there were all these different phases along the way. And we always tried with a lot of bands, the so-called evolution is just them getting mellower and more toothless, really hoping that somebody will
That just
pick
sounds like
up
most of my
on it.
friends.
Yeah, exactly. So we always tried to evolve while still maintaining that kernel of like hardcore, it's scary, profanity, nudity, weirdness, that way you don't have to let that go unless you decide, okay, we're gonna try and go the commercial route now. And it's like I'm more concerned with like just making an interesting record and just leaping from one thing to another all the time. But this reissue, or it's not a reissue, actually, this brand new record that's coming out for Record Store Day is
Yeah.
is interesting because it harkens back to our sort of 1989 hardcore period right before that a lot of people knew about. So this one's called Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows, and it's basically like what was cool about it was I found these tapes of us just playing live in the studio, but with Jack Endino, who recorded Blood Guts and a lot of other records
Right.
each and stuff like that. And so, it was an old recording and it really showed you like exactly what we were like live in the 80s, but it was well recorded and so we mixed it and we're throwing it out there for Record Store Day and people really seem to be responding to it. We got a lot of the old photos from
I
the
I
Guts.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of, photos from the Blood Gut session and old live photos of us from the late 80s by Charles Peterson and stuff like that. And so it's a cool kind of retro thing for the people who are like, okay, that's the period of the dwarves I like. It's like, okay, here's something for you, you know.
It's probably the people consider the classic version of you guys that
Right.
you know what I'm saying. But to me, I mean, when I heard it, I got it sent to me. It's like I get a lot of stuff sent to me, and obviously being aware of you guys and getting that across was, oh wow, this is interesting. And then hearing it, and I was like, oh, I'm in. I reached out. I'm like, let's chat. I'm in. This is
Well,
great.
I'm
I'm
glad to
excited.
hear it. Yeah, a lot of bands kind of turn their back on the old stuff, but not me. I like the old stuff as
Well,
well
it's where
as
your heart is at, though.
whatever's
If you want to do it, if you enjoy it, there's nothing wrong with going back and forth if that's what you enjoy. As long as you're not doing it for like, I want it to be my so and so album. You know what I mean? Success. As long as
right.
you're not chasing that success too hard. But if you just something you enjoyed, that was a fun period. Let's do that now. Then why not? My
Well,
success is just getting up every day. And then get to the end of the day and clean sheets. I mean, it's really like I said, the bar for me is really low. So as far as the band's future, so with the new music coming out, record day, like what is the band at like as far like playing, doing other music, like the creativity spot. Like as you get
yeah,
older, everyone kind of does their own things and then comes back and you know what I'm saying? Where are we now?
right. Exactly. I mean, the Dwarves has kind of become sort of more less a band and more like a posse, of sort of 10 different guys who kind of come and go and
I
do
would
very,
use the word malleable with you
yeah.
guys because I could never know who's where.
Yeah, exactly. Which again, I think makes for a more interesting record. You get different people's songwriting and different people's styles. But we're playing a lot live this year. Even just in April, we're doing a ton of stuff. We're doing one of those Punk in the Park festivals out in Arizona, which are always fun. And then we're doing a whole tour with a great kind of stoner, metal band, I Hate God. And we're going to do the whole West Coast with those guys. So it's fun to hit that heavy metal crowd and,
I think
so
that crowd will love you. I've had Jimmy on, I like that. I like that band. So I think it's a good crowd for
yeah.
you, actually.
Yeah, they're a great group, and so there's a fair amount of shows, and I guess in August we're getting out there and hitting the East Coast, and doing more punk in the parks through the fall and summer, and doing so yeah, I mean it's a lot of live, and which is always kind of the center of a rock band. Like you got to be able to deliver it every night live, and we don't really
Right.
sound like the records live. It's more like we just throw it at the wall and go for it when we're playing live. When we're making records, it's very kind of meticulous and figuring it
Yeah.
out. But when we're playing live, it's always you're always a teenager again, and you just knock it out. You know,
Just like throwing a garbage can down a flight of stairs. Just let's make
that's
some
it.
sound and have some
Yeah.
fun type of
Yes.
thing. Not
Exactly
saying you
right.
sound like a garbage can down a flight of stairs, but the idea of having fun and making noise is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I say that
Yeah.
out loud. It's is it challenging though to have the energy like as you get older? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean that is the challenge, and I think how you get there, there's lots of people who get there different ways. I get there by always knowing that there's another cool record that we're making, so I don't
mhm,
feel old. Like here we go doing the old songs again. You kind of with the Dwarves, we'll do something brand new up against something from 30 years ago, and it all works in the set. So it makes me feel like it's all kind of integrated together and
right.
not just standing still. And then I also make solo records under the name
Well, yeah.
Rain. So that's sort of a whole different thing where we again do that genre hopping, but it's all country and bluegrass and Americana and novelty songs and humor songs. And so that's sort of another different character where it's like I always feel like there's something new to do. I don't feel stuck. I think there's a lot of people that I see out on the road and they're pretty stuck, and we just don't feel that way. We feel like, but it is, the older you get, the hard part's the traveling, playing
Well, I
is
think if yeah, physically it's getting to because I definitely say
right.
like even your videos are funny, your solo stuff. I want to encourage people not just go back if they're not aware, and even if they are aware, check out his solo stuff too. Check out everything out. I mean, I got sidetracked into your solo stuff because I'm finding some videos out there, you know. pretty
It's a lot
funny.
more
It's fun.
listen. It's a lot more listenable and a lot more sort of adult. So for me, and it kind of works with my modern voice better. Like it's when I go out and scream
Right.
dwarves, it's like it can be hard, but yeah, that's it's all in the game. I mean, I think the part that's easier now is that when we started doing it, it was like, okay, if we just keep doing this, somebody's going to notice, we're going to make some money and they're going to get out, something's going to happen. And now,
Yeah.
you've sort of given up hope. And so it makes it better, because it's just like, this is the music, don't worry about
Well, if you think about it, all genres of music have not made any money. So, although, the one thing you can say is actually as crazy as you got, I got to the point, in recent years where it was hard to offend anybody. Now, with this administration, it's like
it.
the it's like the 80s again for punk. It's like, you know what I mean? I just thought about that really. I mean, you will offend everybody.
Oh, yeah.
You will
Yeah.
be the
No.
bad boys of rock,
Oh,
on this
absolutely.
tour
Yeah.
because of who you guys are and how you do it. Which
True.
make rock and roll or punk rock. I mean, I'm not trapped in a genre name, but being dangerous is fun, you know?
Yeah, and I think if you go back to where we started, I mean, punk to me has always been more of a way of doing things and less a genre of music. It's
Oh
more like
yeah.
the people who do things independently and the people who kind of take their own direction. That's sort of what punk is to me, although
Punk
it's
had a good ethos though, you know what I mean? Of
a
like you
genre.
could do whatever you wanted. That's the thing, you
Yeah,
know?
that's the beauty of it.
I mean, don't, I mean, I think to me, a podcast is like the original punk rock sign. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's really just, the same
Low
thing to
budge
me.
talking. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I don't that's what it's all about. It's just talking and keeping it real without any, I've got no nothing. I get nothing from this except talking to you and sharing music and then keeping you awake,
I know, man. I'm just not used to getting up for these interviews. I already did a couple today, and I'm just like, but as long as I'm talking about my favorite subject, me,
me. Here's a
I can
world of
pretty much
me.
keep it together. Yeah.
So, well, I mean, and the thing is, when you get in, obviously, as always get older, we always feel like we're the younger version of ourselves. I tell you all the time, I walk by my house, I see like with a mirror, and I'm like, who's that old guy looking at me? Because I don't feel like that old guy. I still feel like that guy who's in the 20s or whatever. I'm not trying to be a young kid, but I'm saying my mind is that guy formed at that certain point,
Sure.
but physically, you feel it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, especially the traveling you do. I mean, it's just not like it was where you just bounce back and it's easy. It's you really get clobbered by all the time changes and car rides and plane trips and backstages and but
Well,
once you're up there
diet.
playing, it's great. Once you're up there playing, that always makes it work for me.
Did the reputation of you guys early on make it harder to stay at certain places?
Oh
Because
yeah,
nowadays people won't, but people, because there's been time in different generations, it may actually be easier for you, even if you have the same reputation, because nobody knows, like, the younger generation might be the ones checking you in at a hotel, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it might not
right.
be the same. They might be missing that one little section there.
Yeah,
Like,
no, we
did
don't.
anybody check these guys?
We don't have problems at hotels as long as long as you got a credit card that works, you're pretty good. But definitely in terms of cracking the media, a lot of people go back and go, "Ooh, okay, no thanks." Like this looks a little extreme. But to me, that was always what rock and roll was about. As soon as it was like, "Oh, this is acceptable, this seems easy," it was like, "Well, why are you doing it?" Like
Well, I think
you
there's something for everyone. I mean, I think, like, I mean, your music, you genre hop. So, I mean, clearly you like everything. There's a mood for everything, I think, and you guys are all those moods at once, like a multicolored pill,
Yeah,
and I think,
like
but
an
it's
old
live
Jackie
music, and
Gleason record.
exactly, but it's like that's exactly. I mean, it's the fact, and this is a perfect time because I mean, the world was in a coma for about a couple of years, and did nothing, and now you can come out and take a deep breath and be like, oh, live music. Oh, this is a little more than live music. This is like a
Yeah.
lifestyle for the evening. I mean, I think it's an exciting time to remind people.
Yeah, and it also that period helped me make a lot more records and kind of focus on some things I had to do. I mean, during that period, I did that first solo Ralph Champagne record as well as
Mhm.
doing what wound up being two Dwarves records, which was the Dwarves concept album and the Keep It Real record, which was sort of an adjunct to that, and a bunch of singles, and then also, got all of the old Dwarves stuff reprinted. So all that stuff came back.
The problem is that I don't think they realize this, and this is for any musicians out there. If you focus on your band, your niche, and your audience, there is survivability and viability, more money than you make on the big labels.
Yeah,
It's
you
not this
have.
buckshot at a barn thing. If you focus on your audience with your website and you're this and you're that, and you work with your audience, you can be okay.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and it's also
I
true
don't mean
that.
Mariah Carey own an airplane, okay. I mean like
Right, yeah.
you're gonna pay your bills and have food in your belly, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also just a question of owning your own stuff. A
Yes,
lot of
own your stuff.
musicians have an inferiority complex, and it's just like, okay, you be the label and you be the manager and you tell me what to do. And then, oh, I went in the studio for you and you paid for it.
Mhm.
Okay. And people don't realize like, well, then they own your record. So,
Keep all your stuff. Maybe have distributors or have people work through you, but
Yeah,
you
I
need to be
always
the
tell
point
young
guard.
bands
Own
just
your stuff.
own your own record and license it, and if you don't want to
Mhm.
deal with distributors or manufacturers and work through a label, that's no problem, and you're going to have to give them a cut. But the question is, do they own it or do you own it? If you own it, then you can license it to them. But if
Yep.
they own it, then they can go, "Oh, we're not taking your phone call anymore and we
We're gonna
forgot
put it on shelf,
we're on to a
right?
new thing," and it's like, "Oh, hey, suck."
I think after that, we all came from the age group of when all those behind the musics came out, and every artist has talked about everything that happened to them. I think if anybody watched those, that should be like a thing for education for music business for any type of genre. You need to
Oh,
sit down and watch all these artists and watch how it went down, and you'll have three
yeah.
bands that did okay from it. I mean, obviously Zeppelin did pretty good, but they all have you have powerhouse managers that just really know this, but you
Zeppelin
still
was
get screwed.
really Zeppelin was like the first band to hang on to their own record and
And
license.
almost one of the last two for many years.
Yeah, yeah, and they, because he understood Jimmy Page had already produced a bunch of other people and he'd seen how
Hmm.
labels were and how things worked and he didn't, and I absolutely modeled, I was never a big Zeppelin fan sitting around listening to it, but I absolutely, once I'd gotten screwed by a volley of record labels when I was in my 20s, I realized, oh shit, you have to do this yourself, finish it
Yeah.
so that nobody's telling you when to finish it. Like I remember making that Thank Heaven for Little Girls record and just singing all the vocals in one day. And it was like, shit, man, my voice is starting to fry. Like, I got to keep going. It's like, well, we only got one day. I was like, really? Who decided that? Who decided that I
Yep.
have to sing 13 songs in one day? It's like, which of course is not impossible. You can do it, and I did it,
No.
and whatever. But it's like,
But
I'd like to have a good vocal if I could. Is that okay by you? Well, no, you move along, and it's just
got
like,
a budget.
so I make my records and finish them, and then I just, you know,
But nowadays it's changed though too, right? I mean, also studio time different. I mean, you can do a lot of studio, especially vocals, at your leisure, different places. You have more freedom now. But I will stick to this. You need to have live drums. I don't want to hear anybody bedroom recording their drums. I want overhead. I want to live drum. If you can do a live band, it's great. But you do
yeah,
have the luxury of saying, I can do my vocals because it is a muscle. I can add to it and do it. That's
yeah,
different nowadays.
exactly.
That's a great technology, but you need, a little more
Pro
flexibility as an
Tools has
artist.
helped in that way, and Pro Tools has helped in terms of people collaborating over great
Yeah,
distances.
there are good things to it.
Where it's hurt people is there are a lot of really generic sounding records more than ever as a result of that, and drums have suffered a lot too because people are like, I
That
can do
crushes
my
me.
drums myself in my bedroom, and it's like you
No, you
probably
can't. No,
can't. Yeah, yeah.
no, you can't. I wouldn't say John Bonham could do drums in his bedroom by himself like Sandra. You need to have it done right. You know?
Yeah, you need there are certain things you still need. And I've been lucky, I stumbled into Eric Valentine years ago, who was a great producer and still is. And then over the last 15 years or so, a guy named Andy Carpenter, and the two of those guys really helped me a lot with production, and then it was just having great players, having guys like Nick Oliveri and Josh Freeze that would come in and play, and then having, the band guys, Fresh Prince of Darkness and Snoop Dogg and Saltpeter and guys who'd been with me for years who kind of understood the band and how to
Love
play it,
those names.
do
Love
it.
those names.
Yeah, a bunch of wild names with the Dwarves. So
Okay.
I've
I
been
know
very
this is the
lucky
best.
in that way, just to have great players and have some good production guys behind me, that helped. And again, that was the thing the label used to do for you. I mean, there used to be some kind of reason
On
to
their
have,
terms, but it was on their terms though, and only if they liked you at
right.
that moment.
Right, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of things that were doing. Like I remember showing up at Butch Vig's studio, and I thought Butch Vig was going to be there, but it was some assistant of his, And I was like, "Oh shit!" So we're not recording with Butch Vig. I was like, "No, you're just going to his studio." I was like, "Oh,
You're not,
okay,
yeah, you're not Nirvana. You're
thanks."
not going to be doing,
It was
yeah.
just like, "Shit, dude." Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of experiences like that with labels, but they used to at least have a publicity department and an art department and a photo department, and they would kind of help you. And
Right.
now, I mean, for young people, it's like it's just a joke. The label is basically a guy with a computer at his house owning your shit.
Well,
You
yeah, I mean, it really is more of a bank than it was a bank before.
Yeah,
The label's just a
yeah,
bank.
yeah,
You know, and there's a lot to be learned from an artist like you who's done it and can keep doing it and keep working. And the music we talk about the business, which is always important, I think, for artists to do to hear this, to talk to you. But the music is jamming. This is a good album you're putting out. This
yeah,
is exciting. It's
absolutely.
live. It's exciting in the world of Instagram and TikTok and all that boring photos of the beach and
Yeah,
guitars. I tag more pictures of guitars set against like the beach scenes, going, "Hey man, you should have me in your show." It's like a picture of a guitar on the beach. I'm like, next. Like, what do you want? Play a club, something live, sweat.
Yeah,
Can I?
yeah.
Can
I
you?
mean, and
Who are you?
because this record, Sunshine Lollipops, for Record Store Day, it came out it was recorded in 1989. It very much has that like band. It's a whole band in
Yeah,
the same room. This is what this is. And then, but a buddy of mine, Lloyd Nickel, cut together a bunch of old footage of us with these things. So it was really fun to see the old band, and we're going to release those videos, and it's going to be very
that's awesome.
nostalgic. Yeah, yeah. I'm really
I think
looking.
it's good to celebrate that though, because I think there's a lot of people. I think there's an audience out there. Might not be a huge audience, but there really is no huge audience anymore for most artists. I mean, because there's just so much music out there. But I think there's an audience that really needs this. I think there's the world
Yeah,
needs live, dangerous
absolutely,
music, you know?
absolutely, yeah, and we need live, dangerous music, and we need to look at where we've been, because a lot of young people can't even imagine a chaotic live show where there's no security and everything. People see videos of our old stuff, and it's like, holy shit, somebody hauled off and threw a punch. It's like, oh yeah, the whole thing started going, and it was like, I think the young people are just
But
like
those are the best
flabbergasted.
stories, though, right? I
Right,
have this.
absolutely. Yeah,
I
it's
was
like,
like, I tell my kids, you have no idea. I'm like Atlanta. I was masquerade in 19, I don't know, 89, 90. Band's playing. Guy comes up dressed like a heavy show, punk show, thrash. I don't remember what it was. Guy comes up dressed in cowboy boots, starts doing some boot scooting boogie thing, jumps off the stage. The crowd just parts like some scene from the Bible. Bam! Hits the floor. All the music stops. I mean, it was a big fall from the stage. It was like an 8, 9 foot, thing.
yeah, yeah.
Quiet for a minute. Also, the guy just you see his foot start moving again. Music comes back on. He thought he was dead for a minute, but like you're not going to see that nowadays. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not.
right. It's an insurance nightmare.
Oh,
Back
it is.
then,
But
people
but
kind of
but in
took
the
it
audience,
off.
you'll go, oh! And then he comes on, you go, yeah. You're a kid.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's footage of like being attacked by, the people at this club were mad at us from the year before, the fans there,
Oh,
and they like set it up with the lighting guy and the sound guy, like turn off the sound on them and cut the lights, and they rushed the stage, but they forgot
oh,
like
bummer.
we had instruments in our hands and we're over them. It's
Weapons.
like, dude, we're gonna beat the shit out of you, just stuff like that. It's like, whoa, man, people forget that that type of thing used to happen, but
A lot of good stories. A couple good travel logs in there for you too. Some good on the road books for you. Is it? I mean, you're such a creative person. You've always been creative, and then obviously the band's had different members over the years, different players and stuff. How is the relationships with everybody at this point? I'm not like trying to dig dirt, but is everybody kind of like no, because you change. Sometimes you're like, yeah, we're hang. Sometimes it's just different people. It's not like I'm not looking for dirt. But I'm saying, or is everyone
No,
like,
it's
yeah, I
great. I
love
mean,
it. I just
even
can't do it right
like
now, or you know
my
what I mean?
favorite one is this drummer Snoop Hawk because
God, that name.
yeah, he comes from a thrash group in Arizona called Get a Grip, and you know, we met this guy when he was 12 years old. There's footage of it. He came to punk rock bowling when we played, and we're doing a main stage show. There's thousands of people out there, and this guy was 12 years old, right up front with his mom, singing every word.
First
And I'm
off, good parenting right there. Just want to say
yeah, and
that.
I'm like, all right, and I hand him the mic. He doesn't miss a word. Finally, I just bring him up on stage and have him sing three songs. I mean, he just killed it. This kid just commanded the stage, and we always stayed friends with him. We'd see him when he lived out in Arizona, and we'd see him when we went out there. And finally, he goes, hey man, I'd love to play drums for you guys, and I needed a drummer at the time. And I was like, oh man, let's not ruin what we had. We have this great thing, and you came up on stage, and you were legendary, and now you're just going to come out, try out for me, and I got to be the asshole from California telling you you're not good enough to play. He comes out and he starts playing, and he's great. And I was like, shit, man. So it's like this guy is still in his mid 20s, and we've known him his whole life. You know what I mean?
That's
And
pretty funny.
he's in the band. And, along with guys, Saltpeter still comes in and does shows. I mean, we went to high school together. I've known this guy since I was 14. So there's just a wide range. Or guys like Nick Oliveri, who was in,
Ah,
and then
yes. God.
but he's been playing with me for 30 years now. So it's very like there's a lot of guys who just love this band. And so it seems like a revolving cast, but really it's like, people got to get on with their lives sometimes, or people have a
Mhm.
kid, or they need
Well,
a
that's what
job.
it seems like. That's why I was asking you. It doesn't because sometimes I think it's good to say because like I see a lot, talking to a lot of artists, I hear a lot of different things.
Yeah,
But from the
people
fan
get
side, I want the
employed
fans to
a
hear
lot.
that, like to be like, no, it's like we're just this family that does stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's also like what the pecking order is. Because with a lot of bands, it's like, well, we started this band together, so you can't tell me what to do, or whatever it is. But it's kind of like it just got to a point where everybody realized that it was my band, which doesn't mean that you don't get your input. You do. I want your input. That's why you're here. But it was like, when the initial guys that you smoked pot with and went to high school with and watched cartoons with and lived with or all have cycled in and out of the band a few times. It's like pretty obvious whose band it is, It's like, oh, I
Right.
was the only one that kept doing it. So, and I think bands kind of work better as dictatorships sometimes than democracies, because a dictatorship can be benign. It's like, I love all you guys. This is what we're going to do, as opposed to like, okay, what does everybody want to do? I think a lot of old bands just gets like, well, I just want to sit home and my girl says I can't leave town. It's like, well, that's not going to help the band very much, dude. It's like, but this is my band too. It's like, not really.
I agree with that actually. I think that and I think it hurt a lot of bands and you can probably reminisce with this is like when a lot of bands had their first albums out and did fantastic and you had the one or two guys that were the main songwriters also. Generally the same leaders of the band too. One guy, two guys in the band and all the checks come in, else people, oh, and they go, well, I want to write songs too. They didn't care before, they were doing whatever.
Right.
You get extra money that way. And then if you go, oh, then if everybody starts writing songs, also the next album tanks. You're like, there's a reason why it's my band. There's a reason why we write the songs. I mean, you can't, sometimes it works, but I'm saying, but overall, it's not just like, it doesn't always have to be everybody all the time, like some kind of hippie commune, because there has to be
Right.
a vision.
Exactly. Well,
And if you
that's
could all do it together,
that
great,
I
but
think
that's special.
the Dwarves are a good example of a band where everybody writes songs. I mean, from the earliest days, Saltpeter, He Who Cannot Be Named, they were writing. They got songs on Blood Guts. There it was always people would kind of perceive it as my band, but it was everybody writes songs, and you got guys like Nick Oliveri, and I mean these guys are great, and they can write, and that's what I want. That's what helps with the genre hopping too because when you only have one person writing something, I mean, if it was all me, then everything would kind of come out like the Ramones or a rockabilly song. But because it's everybody doing it, it's kind of like I know how to produce all kinds of genres and make stuff happen. So, like, nobody writes a riff like Nick Oliveri. He does his own thing and so you get that element, and then you'll get elements. The other guys tend to be more like metal guys than me. So
Mhm.
these metal guitar elements will come in or different things. It's like, oh, cool. Okay, that's not something I would have written, but I know how to produce it and make it good. So Dwarves got that balance really good, where everybody writes songs and feels like they're invested in the group. But at the end of the day, if the song's not right for the Dwarves, it's not going on the record I'm
You
producing.
Well, I mean, you are the end. So you still need somebody to put their their foot down. Do you think you could do not actually like Yes, but like remember when Yes did Union? It was everybody. If
Oh,
you were to
and
fit.
the fact that you know it really annoys me, but
Oh,
it's
come on. Why?
okay.
Why is that? I'll give it back to you because the same reason why I know you, I know all music. I listen to everything. I'm aware. You want to talk to somebody else
Yes,
who's never
never
heard of you?
worked for me. My answer to yes was always no, and it's just
Okay,
how it
listen to
is.
my question now, knucklehead. The fact that all members from different periods got together and tried to put something together to create from different periods that didn't, maybe other
Oh,
guys didn't always work together. Oh, now there's a question there.
sorry.
Yes, if you could do something like a collaboration from all different type periods together,
Oh,
would
that'd be
that
great.
would that
Yes,
work?
I would. Yeah, I think so. I mean, because a lot
That's
of
what I'm
those
saying. I'm
guys
not
go
saying
around.
the band. Jeez, man.
Like for Saltpeter, I mean, he's not into touring at all. I mean, he'll do it once
Right.
in a while for me if I need a favor,
Like
but
a family style collective album.
yeah, but
Is
he
there
still
anything?
writes songs all the time, and yeah, that's the thing. I mean, why not get the best? If you're putting together a record and you got five songwriters, and you can get the best couple tracks from all of them. Whereas when you
Right.
got one guy, then you got to sit there and pretend that every song this guy's doing is great and it's all different, and it rarely is.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, has it ever been looked at by like, you have all these different resources and all these different things. If everyone still sort of gets along, or members that hadn't played together, crisscross and pollinate, and it's
Or
such
with
a
somebody like
wellspring of
Josh
talent.
Freese. I mean, Josh is like the ultimate hired gun, so people are always calling him
He
in
is.
and do it like this and play this, and I'm like, dude, you're great. Like, well, let's write a song. So so for Josh, like, great, yeah, I'm into it. He comes to me with songs. He wrote a great song called Everything and Moore that was about Vag Moore and Rex Everything from the Dwarves. So he wrote a song
Yeah.
about the Dwarves for the Dwarves and then played on it. And it's like you just can't make this stuff up. It's like So Lucky. Whereas when he's playing with the Foo Fighters, it's more like, well, people came to hear Dave Grohl's song,
Right.
so you got to do that. So it's very I think that's a good way to deploy people, and it has people get skin in the game. I mean, sometimes I feel more like a casting director than a record producer, because it's like, as long as you bring in the right people, they're going to do the right stuff.
Well, if you know what you want, I mean, yeah, I mean, to hire somebody and tell them what to do, then you must get to some kind of just particularly hired gun that replicate stuff. But if you're hiring a creative source and you're not letting them be them, you're wasting their time. You're wasting your
Right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why even do that? Just get There's a ton of guys out there who will recreate anything you want. You can pay them for it, and that's awesome. But that's not what you want. If you want creativity,
Yes. Absolutely.
originality, you know. Um, I just think I love the idea that have had that's had so many different overlapped to be like, has this version ever got with this version? Have you guys ever sat down and done this? I love the idea of that.
Yeah.
And that's why when I was like listening to the album, I'm like, God, that was this year. And when you guys recorded that, I'm thinking, but you've had other versions here. I'm like, have we cross-pollinated yet? Have you done that yet? Like, what other
Yeah, I mean,
mad
that's
experiments
kind of
can you
what all
create?
that's kind of what the records from the last 25 years are. That's why
Right.
to me it's like the Wu-Tang Clan, because people keep
Yeah.
adding to it, but nobody leaves. Nobody's even died yet, which is surprising.
Not even on tour. What kind of tours are you having?
I
You
know
know?
we need to do more late night driving. I'm drunk, so that
Oh,
we can get a
I
death and
it's dangerous. I think or those the northern, like Sweden, the towns where it's always snowy and it's black ice on the buses. That always seems to take
right,
somebody out. You know what I mean? It's kind of always the dark story in
right.
every rock bio. But I mean, this has been fun. I'm glad we could talk. I've been aware of you for many, many years.
Hey man,
And
I'm
and
glad to
and
hear it. It's always
And
fun
I'm
when
glad.
people do their homework and they know the group and what they've done, you know.
Well, for me, it's not homework because I already know you guys. I don't have to. That's the whole thing with the show is I just do. I've had
You
people I
already
like,
know
and
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's I just know the history, and then going back in the album and they get excited like, oh man, I haven't heard this album in a while, right? You know what I mean? Because there's just so much music, I can't even consume it. Um,
And
with
I
this,
I forgive you for your Yes albums.
I'm
It's
not going to apologize for that. I'm actually going to bring. I want you to sign my Yes albums. That would be an atrocity. I love Yes, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But I also love punk. I don't. But it's funny. I can say like I love all types of music, but I'm very specific on what I like of that genres of music. You know what I'm saying? I don't just like everything. I'm not that guy who yes
Right.
you.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like. It's like I like 1% of every different kind of music.
Yeah,
I love hip hop, but I hear so many terrible hip hop records now.
trash.
It's
I could
unbelievable.
name like maybe five prog groups I love, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, you know,
Like
punk
four and
bands
a
I
half
love.
more than me. But yeah, I mean, it's, I grew up going to, my parents would take me to see Gilbert and Sullivan operettas and,
Good stuff.
Brazilian music or whatever. It's like I always had a very omnivorous musical taste, but it's got to be the good version of whatever you're doing.
I generally agree, and as I'm saying, I will argue to my to the day with you about that. I love your music, but I
That's
love
right.
Yes in the
Got to
same
be
breath.
real to yourself. Yeah.
I will not
I'm
sell
always
out.
fighting with Josh Freeze about he's defending some group, and I'm like, I hate those guys. Like, no, they're really good. So yeah, you
And
gotta
here's the thing: I don't even hate people. I just don't enjoy them. I just want to waste space in my mind with that band. I'm like, that's cool,
right.
but
Yeah.
hate? No, I put all the energy to something cool.
I do a
Okay,
version of the Grinch as Ralph Champagne. Cheers,
I'll do
bud.
it. I'll support you. All right, brother. Bye bye.